How do I make this?
How do I?
You want to record the video?
Huh?
Wait.
No, I'm gonna use this. Wait, am I?
You get a little man, but on them.
Oh, how are you?
Good, how are you? Me too. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. The name. Yeah, we just like. Yeah, I was like,
So I plan to have a laptop here.
Yeah, I want to get a video open like that.
Yeah, I think it's that. Is this in this budget? So lovely. I'm going to do. You're going to introduce me, and then I'm going to tell people about the format of the evening and introduce our speakers. Yep. And I'm going to show award video. Is that ready to go? That is, and then I'll introduce the award-winning.
So I will leave the team like your staff employee, like your colleagues. Do you want to introduce them, or just introduce you, and then you can introduce?
Yeah. You can introduce me, and then introduce them, and yeah, explain. So then I'll hand over to Michael to do the presentation of the project on the way around. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if Katrina has a line with you about, I think they'll be sitting here at the start, and then after you go to them, they'll be happy to sit down and then walk us through them. Just so that they don't block the screen.
Yep. Awesome. Lovely. It's a little bit quiet.
Seems like mine works for you.
It's a little bit.
I think I will introduce you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Lovely. Yep.
Hello. Hi.
Hello? Can I have attention? Thank you. I think the event's about to start. So, thank you so much for coming today and attending the Susan Ward Industry event. I'm so delighted to see so many of you here. My name's Ewan and I'll be the MC. And then we have a panel discussion tonight. followed by a Q&A session, and we will have food after the event. For the Q&A event, I'd just like to mention that we have a $300 worth voucher giving out for the best 3 questions asked from the students. So we strongly encourage you guys to engage and participate. In terms of the attendance for the PEP hours, we will have a QR code putting up at the end of the event for you guys to scan. And now we'd like to introduce our richly experienced panel, Brian, and his fellow guest speakers from Ward, joining us tonight. And we, with their collective expertise and experience, we hope they'll provide a great insight into what engineering in the workforce is like, and see how real life projects work out. So we'd like to introduce Brian first. All right, so we have particularly honored to have Brian, the Chief Operating Officer at Ward. Brian has joined Ward in 2014, and since being at the helm of the corporate operation division, overseeing new business and estimating corporate and project services, health, safety, environment, and quality. Brian plays a pivotal role in developing client relationships with spearheading strategic initiatives for Ward. He is also a passionate leader of Ward's corporate social responsibility programs with over 35 years of experience in civil engineering, primarily in UK, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Brian has been instrumental in delivering challenging civil infrastructure projects. His commitment to effective risk management and enhancing safety and diversity outcomes in our industry is both exemplary and inspiring. So please give me a join and warm welcome to Brian.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Lovely, good. Okay, I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions to kick off with the different year cohorts in the room. How many first years have we got? Second years? Third? Fourth year? Pardon my ignorance, is fourth the final year? Is it? Yes, because some universities do 5. Excellent. The lovely. And how many civil engineering students is it all? Is it all civil? Yeah. Fantastic. No, there's somebody shaking his head there. Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you. So thanks for coming. What we thought we would do this evening is split our presentation into 2 sections. The first section will be a presentation of a project that we completed last year, which was the Wild Mountain Bike Relocation Project. I don't know if you're familiar, that's a mountain bike trail out in Cecil Hills, Michael, yes? And had to be relocated to facilitate the construction of the UN-12 motorways. So we got Oriana here and Michael who were led the project, and so we thought we'd give you a bit of a perspective of what it's like to deliver a civil infrastructure project. And then the second half of the presentation will be around how we as an industry can provide a more equitable working environment in construction, because it's a very monochrome industry in terms of diversity of people working in our industry. So just wanted to touch on the kind of initiatives that the industry is doing to try to make it a more attractive place, so that it's not just old Irish blokes like me that work in it, but it's a wide range of people from every background and with every experience. So that's, I'll quickly now, before handing over I'll just give you a little bit of background on the people you will be meeting. So we've got Oriana Senese. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, yes. Oriana is a landscape architect who also holds a diploma of project management and has extensive industry experience in strategic project planning, management and delivery. Skilled in managing multidisciplinary teams, including the ward team. So that's no mean feat. To deliver complex cross-divisional programs and projects, master plans, business cases, risk management and construction projects. Literally anything you're likely to touch on in your future career. Oriana has held several key roles in the past 30 years. Let's just start with that very young. A senior landscape architect and landscape design coordinator for the Sydney Olympic Park. 14 years at New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Services in various senior project management positions, including head of strategic projects. For the past 7 years, including when she worked with the ward team, Oriana was working in senior management roles in property design and strategy and delivery for Greater Sydney Parklands. And Oriana is currently principal project management for critical infrastructure on Lord Howe. And how good is that? And she's looking for a young civil engineer and undergrad. Lord Howe Island. Okay, that's Oriana. Thank you. Next to cab on the rank is Michael Rice. Michael is an experienced civil and structural engineer. He commenced working with Ward in 2019 as a senior project engineer, and from 2020 is held the position of project manager. He works closely and cohesively with clients to bring projects to fruition on time and on budget. He's undertaken projects throughout New South Wales and Queensland, and right across the whole spectrum of civil and mining through to the wonderful Wild Mountain Bike Trail. And last but certainly not least is Josephine Taylor. Josephine is the Group Health and Safety and Environmental Manager for Icon Construction, with over 20 years experience in commercial construction. Again, you wouldn't believe it. Started working on site, a very interesting background. Josephine started working on site as a full-time nurse for a large construction site and then moved into the health and safety space, where the focus is on prevention rather than treatment. Josephine is a passionate supporter of the construction industry culture task force and the draft culture standard, which is trying to address the major issues impacting our industry and our workforce, including excessive work hours, fatigue, poor mental health, and the failure to attract and retain a diverse workforce. So please join me in welcoming our three. I'll hand over to Oriana.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Sorry, yes. First, apologies. Yes, there is the board video.
Sorry about that.
My bad.
Founded by the late Peter Ward, Ward's operations commenced in March 1973 as Bass Civil Engineering. With deep excavation and shoring contracts in Sydney's CBD. The 1980s saw Ward as head contractor for numerous government and private clients. In 1980, Ward opened its Newcastle office. During the 1990s, Ward expanded its operations to include marine, remediation and specialist roadworks. By the 2000s, Ward had developed strong capabilities in civil engineering, remediation, ground engineering and plant hire. Ward also commenced airport works. 2010 was a decade of high-caliber projects for Ward, including airport works, road and utilities works throughout New South Wales, enabling and site preparation works, and the Australia First top-down bulk excavation works for Crown Sydney at Barangaroo. In 2014, Julia Ward joined Ward as Chief Financial Officer, then in 2017 took on the role of Chief Executive Officer. Under Julia's leadership, Ward has continued to grow its portfolio in the civil engineering infrastructure space. In 2020, Ward Utilities was created, and in-house traffic management was introduced, providing a whole-of-project lifecycle solution for clients. Ward is an organisation which lives by its core values of superior client service, innovation, staff care and safety. Ward is an environmentally friendly corporate citizen, a community partner and an employer focused on equal opportunity, diversity and inclusion. With a clear growth plan and a well-defined company strategy building on its history, Ward is looking forward to the next stage in its corporate evolution.
Thank you. Yes, ready? Gonna walk? No, not there. Oh, it's here. It's here. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to take you through with Ward, with Michael. I was the sort of client project manager working at Greater Sydney Parklands. My role was in design strategy and then through to construction. And then Michael Wright, Ward Civil, were the successful tenderer for this major sort of capital works program out in Western Sydney. So this is the Wild Mountain Bike and BMX project in Western Sydney Parklands. The original Wild Mountain Bike was built in 2015. It was situated in 1,500 hectares of parkland at Western Sydney Parklands down in Liverpool End. Western Sydney Parklands is 5,000 hectares of open space. And the original Wild Mountain Bike was award-winning in 2015. It also won the Premier's Award for design excellence, but also in terms of as a biking facility. The M12 came along, so the planning for the $2 billion project, roads project from Transport for New South Wales, linking the M7 to the new Western Sydney Airport. And in its way was the existing Wild, and we had to work with Transport for New South Wales to relocate the mountain biking facility and look at the creation of the new BMX. This is currently under construction, and obviously Ward Civil were on time and we moved the whole facility in time before the commencement of the M12. Wild, it's the largest combined biking hub in Australia. Its project budget was 13.5 million, and then there was a few other millions in terms of infrastructure. Michael will take you through that. So that was the key component of the project. 15 kilometres of mountain bike trails and a pump track that's the largest in Australia. The BMX track has also got one of the longest jumps, 9.5 metres. And it included new access road, car parking, amenities, picnic shelters, all within a Cumberland Plain woodland. So the environmental aspect of this project was really critical. This is November 2021 earthworks, and Michael will take you through it. It's a really good aerial. This is an incredible precinct in Western Sydney, the new Western Sydney. You can see the views straight out to the Blue Mountains. The Western Sydney Airport's only about 5 or 6 kilometres. So it includes the BMX, car park, and then obviously all the mountain bike trails, a whole new road and entrance. That's on completion. So the Wild facility with the new pump track, the new car park, it actually was, and then BMX in the top left-hand corner, sitting yet again within that in sort of environmental sort of aspect of it, and working closely with, I think the hardest part of this project was working with Sydney Water. We had to move a major pipeline, working with the Sydney International Shooting Centre, moving within their boundary, and then with Transport for New South Wales, coordinating all of the infrastructure services removal as the M12 motorway project combined. The Wild Entry and Access Road, under construction by Ward Civil in December 2021. I did want to note that, as I always say, I mean, it's fantastic doing your sort of master planning and documentation right through to approvals, but until you get on the ground, you really don't understand the actual aspects. So for any good sort of civil engineer, architect, landscape architect, actually, this is where you really do learn, is actually on the ground, is during construction, and Michael will talk to you. And as a client, we were looking at design excellence, ensuring that the environment was, this infrastructure sat well within the environment, and it met budget and met the time frame. The pump track, Dirk's a subcontractor, as they're laying asphalt by hand, as they're building the pump track for the BMX. This is the other one, Wild BMX track. We also, as part, Ward Civil did all the subgrade, but what we did is had a riders test day in November 2021. That was of regional, national and state champion BMX riders. And we also had the world champion who tested the track before the finalisation, which is on the right, that image. And that's a view of a BMX track sitting within the Western Sydney parklands, within quite endemic Cumberland Plain woodland. And it shows the sort of how a sporting venue within Western Sydney parklands. I wanted to note that this, this is a community facility and it's all free, so it's welcome. But this is of national sort of under construction, the core precinct. I did want to note that those the shelters and the toilet blocks were lifted from the old wild and craned into place. And Michael might give you some sort of overview of that. So it was really a sustainable approach in reusing a lot of the material that was in the old wild MTB trail and reincorporating into the new. And this is a view. And I wanted to say that when we're looking at construction techniques, we're also looking at robustness. We're looking at the maintenance of these precincts. We're working with the contractor, ensuring that these precincts operationally work well, but also from a long-term maintenance point of view. I just wanted, this is a classic picture. We revegetated, and that was with Ward Civil and the landscape contractors, the Cumberland Plain woodland, 700 new trees, 6,000 native plants. It was installed as part of the landscape works. And because it was one of the wettest seasons, the actual growth of that, wasn't it, Michael? It actually, when we did the wild opening, it looked like it had been there for a couple of years. It was incredible. That's my final slide. We're looking at the core area, the pump track, the major facilities, amenities. We're looking at a really super popular for Western Sydney bikers, but they come from all over Sydney for mountain biking and for BMX. But I wanted to say it was absolutely working very close in hand with the civil contractor in delivering, and the landscape contractor, and obviously the BMX contractor in delivering what is, an award-winning major project. And I'm sure Michael will tell you, but it's won 3 major awards, both in design excellence in terms of landscape architecture, but also the Master Builders Association for civil contractor. I'm going to pass you on to Michael. Get to my bike when it comes up.
Michael Wright, Ward Civil Contractors. You're definitely going to see the difference between a landscape architect slides and the engineer's slides. Job was awarded late 2020. We were on site a couple of months after the award, just after the Christmas break, and it took us the best part of 18 months to complete. It was a design and construction contract, and it was under the DC 21 contract. I'll try and cover more of the engineering side than Oriana covered. This is the plan view of the works. As Oriana told you, the Sydney Wild has been relocated to the install. And been relocated and upgraded into a new location. We had a good new access road through there to the new car park, about 100 car park spots there. It was flexible pavement, but in the line stabilisation of the existing material. The material there was a very poor material, a CBR1 material, and as a result, needs to be upgraded so you can build a road capable of carrying the traffic. We also had to build access to the shooting centre. There's also basically upgrading the intersection, which includes 3 yards down there, which one of them is a tip site, which includes a lot of heavy haulage. A lot of this we did go through. The access road spoke about that. And upgrade the new intersection is basically just a very rundown road, which we upgraded using a flexible pavement, 650 mil thick pavement, new car park. Service works, we relocated overhead line was going straight through the middle of the site to an underground service, just for aesthetic reasons, rather than having a run through a very picturesque site. So it's just relocated, new substation installed. The new water feed all the way up the main road, about 2 kilometres away, so involved putting pumps in and such to make sure the head water was still adequate for the services at the end. Internal wellbeing comms were installed for multiple talks and such needed services, and as well as it being expired. We also put in some future provisions for street lights. There's over $1 million worth of landscaping. I think Oriana is selling it short at 6,000 trees. I think we were well and truly over that by the end of it. The 3 relocated structures which we spoke about on the existing wild, it was quite a big task moving very large structures on the back of trucks from one location to the other without damaging it. 3 kilometres of fencing, the 12 kilometres worth of outside tracks, which actually be intertwined with the existing tracks out there. Asphalt pump track, and I'll speak a bit more about that shortly. So this is an example of a pump track. This is what I'm going to show you, which is a nice picture of people using the pump track. So there's engineering behind it. You just don't make it up. You actually have a proper design built by a subcontractor of ours. The chemical pump track is you start at one end and you just use your momentum to get from one end to the other without pedaling. It's all momentum based. So there's science behind it. The contractor then goes, subcontractor then goes out and builds this. They do plenty of test runs. What they do, float the final load asphalt in. They'll get 10 people, different ages, different skills to run the track and make some minor changes to get it spot on. So that they're actually enjoying contract. No one can go out there and build this. It's a very specialised field, but there is engineering behind how they actually get the final product. When you look at that top one, it just looks like chaos, but there is actually a science behind it. This is a mountain bike track. You can sort of see the existing tracks, the dash lines up there, and we built a bunch of new tracks to miss the M12, which came through here. I think that's the same shot that we showed before, or a very similar shot during construction. See the car park and open flow car park, and the very early stages of the next track. So I just want to run through a couple of challenges or a few of the challenges. There's hundreds of challenges on goals. If there's no challenges or problems on site, engineers don't have work, so that's our job as engineers. The first one is just the sheer number of people who are involved and keeping everyone on track, on the same page, and keeping everyone at least partially satisfied throughout the course. You've got the City International Shooting Centre, who ultimately main care was that they always had access to their site. Browndown Quarries, which is an active quarry and a tipping site that had thousands of trucks going every day. A couple of truck yards. Liverpool Council, who had a lot more to do with the BMX than the actual precinct area. The M12 team, obviously, we had to hit a date so they could hit the M12. You talk about if we're late, millions of dollars worth of costs. And then there were several departments within the city parklands trust that we had to keep happy, and the client also employed several of their own designers to basically review our works. That took on the client side. Then we got some internal people we work with, our subcontractors. I won't go through each one of them. Our designers. So to overcome that challenge, it's all planning, it's all meetings, you've got to manage it, you've got to have open communications, and you've got to work as a team to get to the end result. Otherwise, you just hit speed bump after speed bump, and you don't hit any of the dates that you're required to hit throughout the course of the work. It's great working with a client that actually responds. A lot of government funds are very slow. You then go and get a very good one that we can get answers very quickly and just keep the job moving forward, because there was a lot of issues as we along with any civil job is going to have that. Particularly design and construct, there's a lot more work involved in design and construct than just the construct only. Rain. So
Rain.
one of the things you can't control is what the sky does, and there's contractors that they're painful at times, but you can minimise the actual costs and time that you have due to rain. Like the last 6 months or so, the rain has actually been very good, but during the course of this job, we lost 6 months on the job due to rain. I spoke about the really poor CDRs you had out there. That makes it very sloppy. You get a little bit of water on the surface and it just, you can't work out there. You can manage it. Trying to go backwards here. You gotta have a good environment. You can see here, we've got sediment basins set up to protect yourself from the environment. You can see this is downstream down, nice clean water, so we're obviously doing our job. That's the sort of stuff that we're gonna talk about, otherwise EPA comes along and you shut down for weeks, you get fines, you can go to jail in the very worst cases, but it's a significant issue with the rain. And then on the side, you've got a plan. You see our planning against every one of these challenges, because that's a good engineer will know how to plan, keep in front of it and try and manage future risks and think about what could potentially come up. At this stage, you have your sediment basins. You set yourself up access roads with better material. We imported material from the Roselle tunnel, which was basically a really good CBR 60 plus material, which allowed us to at least do some work during the rain. And programming, so you focus on the areas down the bottom of the job which were prone to rain, but being influenced by the rain, you can focus on them during the dry weather, so at least you can work the high range when there was a bit of rain. COVID was obviously a significant issue, not just construction, across every industry. We were probably one of the more lucky industries in that at least we got to go back to work relatively quickly. We were on the borderline, but unfortunately the site got shut down for 4 weeks. We were 4 weeks rather than 2 weeks. Basically, once again, planning, totally not using storm. You have contingencies because you might have a team of 5 people working in an area, and excavator operator goes down, and all of a sudden everyone associated with that area would have issues doing works, because without an excavator operator, you've got the operator, the guy on the previous spotter, the water tower operator, all of a sudden struggle. So you've got to have contingency, you've got to have backup people, you might have an extra person on site to cover that. And the main one is obviously be able to follow the government regulations. One, to keep everyone safe, and secondly, by following the rules, it reduces the likelihood of someone becoming sick on site, because if someone could become sick on site, people that have a fire effect across the site. This one is keeping the park open for as long as possible. As the construction period was just over 18 months, we couldn't shut down the existing park for 18 months. So we had to manage the best we can to keep that existing park open, and only launch it towards the end of our work. You can see here the existing tracks, they sort of overlap into the new tracks. So we had to build the new tracks safely, and we actually opened some of them early. The old setup location, just slowly handing it over piece by piece, which allowed the riders to continue using the facility for as long as possible. And it was only the last couple of months towards the end where we actually had to shut down the park for the final handover. One of the challenges was the uniqueness of works. This is very specialised works. It wasn't a standard road construction job where you can ring up and get an excavator operator off the shelf. This way here, there's only a handful of people who build contracts for BMXs or mountain bike tracks. So you had to really, once again, planning, have the people available at the right time when you needed them. It's not forced, but you had to plan ahead. You had to know in 6 weeks you needed this guy on site with heels and night was going to build the jumps for the BMX track, because there's like 3 guys in Australia that can do it. Yeah, placing asphalt on batters like that is not standard, and if you don't place it right, you're pulling it out, you're doing it again. Keeping the road open to ground downs was the main one. The ground down quarry was down the end of the road. So we had at all stages, keep that road open. It involves, I think, 5 separate movements of traffic to be able to build it. It takes a lot of planning for the traffic switches, and in this case, it actually we had to go back to the drawing board. The process we had at tender time just wasn't going to work, so we actually went back to the drawing board and recreated a new traffic management plan to build it. And we kept it open for the whole time, just built the road in segments. And coordination any disruptions. So when we did the final asphalt layer, that's one where there was a disruption. So we even did some night shifts just to keep out of their working hours, so they keep their tip open.
Thank you.
That's all. Okay.
Well, I guess you're all of us, all of you are doing civil engineering. One of the great, I always think the advantage that we have as civil engineers is we get to build infrastructure. We get to leave something lasting that quite often gets used, and certainly with that Wild Mountain Bike Trail, it's a wonderful legacy for Oriana, Michael, and the entire team. Now we're going to move on to the second part of the evening. I will remind you that there are 3 $100 vouchers available for the best questions. So we'll be opening up for questions. And yeah, the judge will be Oriana. What are the best questions? One of the ones I'll be asking is, who can tell what was the CDR of the subgrade? Anyway, one thing I was going to ask before I hand over to Josephine is, have any of you given consideration to the direction your career will take when you graduate? And that's there as people in the room are considering a career working in construction. Right, there's a few hands going up.
4 of you. Is that all? 5?
How many?
5?
5. How do you feel about maybe starting work at 6:30 in the morning? Right. And working on a Saturday as well. So I'm just going to hand over to Josephine. So just a discussion on how we can make our industry more attractive, so to attract a wider range of people. Thank you.
Hi all, how are you? Is everyone listening?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of whispering up there, and I'm like, I'll just call you out if you're whispering. So look at me. So who here is currently working in construction? Anyone here in a graduate program? Anyone in a graduate program of some sort? Anyone done one of those disgusting interviews that you do when you try and get into a graduate program with a builder? Do you do one of those? Oh, yuck. Aren't they disgusting? You should all do one just for good practice. Good practice. Okay, so undergraduate programs can be quite, I guess competitive to get into. For anyone who's working in construction already, you probably know some of the conditions that we work in. So I'm here to talk to you today about how we're going to move forward as an industry, because quite frankly, if we keep going the way we're going, we're not going to retain and attract talented people, right? It's going to get to a point where people go, I don't think I'm getting paid enough, and we get paid a lot to work in this industry, and it's going to cause problems. And a big part of the solution is sitting in the bleachers here, right? Because you guys are the ones that are the talent. You guys are the ones that are coming through that we want to engage with and we want in our companies. And if our companies don't behave right and our cultures aren't set right, guess what you guys do? You leave. You just leave us. And then we have to recruit someone else, and it costs us money, right? Huge thing in business, retention. Retention is not just because we like you. Retention is because it costs us heaps of money when we have to replace you, right? So vote with your feet. If you're in an organization and the culture's not good and you're not enjoying it and you've got no home life and you've got no fun, don't stay there. Walk away and find a business that is doing something to support the culture of this industry. So that's my big throw out to you. Have a look at it. But how do you do that? I don't have all the answers, but I've got some tools that you could use and ask to see if that employer is right for you, right? So I'm going to talk about the culture industry task force. So just for a disclaimer, I don't work for them. I'm not affiliated with them on any paid basis, but the culture standard itself is an excellent standard that's been put together after a lot of research about what the problems in construction are. And essentially, if you have a read of that, or if you find an employer that is embracing it, you know that you're on the right track with someone who's looking at the problems of industry and actively trying to solve them for you, right, before you start. So that's what we're talking about. So it was a joint initiative between the Australian Constructors Association, which I'm a part of, and I sit on their health safety committee in Australia, and then New South Wales and Victoria governments, plus all the, I guess, main principal contractors that are sort of funding members of the ACA. So it started since 2018, it's been developed, they developed a culture standard. So where did that come from and why is a really important question? And they work alongside the Construction Industry Leadership Forum. So I want to just talk about why this came about and why they started looking at it. And unfortunately, it's not just because we love people, but we do love people. But you know what I said before about why do we want to retain you? Because it costs us money. Guess what? That's why the draft standard came about. So I'll just skip forward and then come back to this one. So when we talk about why is it costing us money, there's a really great report you can read about cost of doing nothing, right? So these figures are set out in that and in the draft standard. They basically talk about if you do nothing and continue what you are doing, and we work from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m., 6 days a week, we're going to have continued people in crisis. We're going to lose people. We're going to have proper mental health issues. We're going to have a whole bunch of stuff going on. Working overtime, well-being, mental health and suicides, all this stuff, plus the having to re-employ people, rehire, costs the total cost of the economy of $7.98 billion. That's a lot of money. Now, I'm not a numbers girl. I didn't do engineering, so please read the report if you want to go into the numbers. But the cost of doing nothing to industry, and that's all of us, is massive. That's how the draft standard came about. So what can we do to better the outcomes for construction? How can we retain people? How can we keep them well? How can we keep them working? That's what this draft standard set out to look at. So it came out, they identified basically through partnership with a whole lot of different industry bodies that the three main items that came up in construction that caused problems was long working hours, well-being issues, and a lack of diversity. Right? They're the three main pillars that cause problems in construction across the board in all sorts of different areas. The statistics go, 64% of people work over 50 hours a week. We've got 59% of people unsatisfied with their work-life balance. And 40% of construction industry employees experience presenteeism. Who knows what presenteeism is? There's a little bit going on in here.
It is space no one the quite new word.
There's a bit of it in here. You're right. There's a bit of it in here where you have to be here, right? I think there's a QR code. Like you have to be here to get the points. Well, in construction, even I 20 years ago experienced that. I had to stay at my desk because the first one to leave, they lose, right? So I'm the hardest worker. I'm here the longest. I'm not going to be the first person to crack. I'm going to stay. That's presenteeism. That's when you're staying just to prove a point and just to be there, and you're not really actually active. You're not engaged. You're not working hard. You're not doing anything really for the business. You're just present. You're just there. Well-being. We have twice the national average of suicides in construction. Now, be it there is a whole gamut of reasons that happens, right? It's still our industry. There still are people. There still are workmates. And we're losing twice as opposed to other industries. 75% report moderate to high stress levels. I can attest to that. That does happen. And 46% of people will say that they experience burnout at some point, particularly on projects. Projects are cyclic. Projects get really, really difficult towards the end. People start to experience burnout. And then what happens with talent is we take them from a high pressure job when it just finishes and we throw them on the next high pressure job. And if they're really good, we put them on a job in distress because they can fix it, right? And that in itself causes burnout, right? People don't get that break from what was a really hectic job, it peaked, and then they come down and it ends and they have a bit of a break and then they start that cycle again. So we talk about burnout. Diversity, now there's the point of diversity. Does anyone understand why we're trying to increase diversity in construction? Like the actual reason behind it? Anyone? Yeah, go.
As we become increasingly diverse or community, different sort of demographics or background, it becomes more to build a better community that suits, you know, the
That is a brilliant answer, right? Because diversity is not just about gender. Diversity is about race, religion, background, economic and socio-economic factors, right? So we're not just talking about females. However, females are a marker that we can use currently to try and add a bit more diversity we can measure. But by no means when I talk about diversity, am I just talking about women. However, it is a big driver in construction. And the reason behind that is that we need to have a much more balanced workplace. And currently, as a woman in construction, I can tell you now, it is not a balanced workplace. And I feel it when I'm in the workplace. So we do need to push that change. And a lot of companies are actively going about doing that. And a lot of governments and clients are absolutely behind that, putting contractual requirements on us to increase female participation in construction. So that's, again, something to think about. So the culture standard, really quickly, talks about inclusive workplaces, targeting diversity, ensuring that we can attract a diverse range of people. So I'll talk about some of the initiatives that we put forward for this. Time for life is about work periods, and then well-being about occupational health and safety, mental health, things like that. So when it comes to diversity and inclusion, essentially we're trying to make workplaces nicer in some places. I don't know how many of you walked on a construction site before, but a very senior female at Health Infrastructure said to me recently, you know, there's nothing like walking onto a construction site and the first thing you see is a shed, an ablution block or a toilet block with a pair of boots sitting under it, right? So you walk in and the first thing you see is someone sitting on the toilet, generally a bloke, right? And I thought, what a weird thing to say. And then I thought, actually, it's every construction site I've ever walked on. And I've never really thought about it because I've been doing this for far too long. But in hindsight, with privacy screens, with a bit of planning, with a bit of movement, we don't all have to walk past McDonald's the moment we walk into the site, right? So when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we're also talking about design, how we create our amenities and what we're doing, right? Diversity inclusion is also having non-offensive material, having champions on site. One of the biggest drivers for female participation in construction is having the right culture when you're there, right? Feeling supported by the people that you work with. Keep going. But feeling supported by the people that you work with, that's a really important one. So that's also having those sort of male champions of change. I don't know if anyone's heard of those. So the NAWIC and the Property Council basically put forward male champions of change. So they're people that you are the go-to for females on site, right? That provide that bit of supportive environment. Time for life. This was a really interesting one on a pilot project recently for the CIC team. Are we all here? Do you want to be here? Because you can. We can compete early. No, we need to finish the life. What's up? I finished. Right. There's another lecture. So apparently there's another lecture, so maybe we will finish for week so early. That's I guess that's the end for me. Oh, I know. I was really disappointed too.
Well, we haven't.
Thanks. That one person.
Sorry.
That's all right.
We thought we were going to talk because, if we are, let's start this date. Yeah, so I don't know, I don't, so I think we haven't, and yeah, you go like,
on this side with, on the. Yeah.
Wait, do you want to see?
So someone must. I'm there. You have to leave and get me. Yeah, no, yes.
Could you tell them to post those pictures?
Okay.
Online photos. Post it public.
Sorry. Now, we have a lecture always here at 6:05, and I have student presentations, so I'm not sure who booked these, but you might have to find another room. I'm really sorry.
Right,
Sorry.
everyone, that's a QR code today. Sorry, about it, we need another 5
Just
minutes.
take a
okay?
picture. Just
Yeah, I want to take a picture.
You don't mind? Yes, of course,
Yeah,
take a picture of me. You don't mind the
yeah.
other students? just-
Yeah.
Every time should be a picture.
Yeah, everyone just take a picture and head to our card location, cafe there from details.
Wait.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for that.
They take that picture and, you want me to take a picture?
I think say something to them. You should.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm leaving. At the cafe. Card location.
Oh. So.
Yeah, I think we, should be around.